Friends, we continue with our little musings. I have been seeing, I've been getting tempted to think about heaven, sometimes more than necessary. And I meet a lot of people who seem to have this obsession about heaven. And given the challenges of life in Africa, the only hope that is there for a lot of people, and what would make sense to anybody who lives in such a hellish kind of condition, would be to think about a better place. Human beings are wired in such a way that they wish for something better. And that wish is sometimes called hope. Even if you're going through a very difficult situation, you tend to create mental images about an idyllic, a more blissful destination. And that is what you aspire for. You fight to get there. And it's called hope. And what drives the destination, that hunger for the destination, among human beings, is actually faith. We are told in the scriptures, faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things we yearn for. And so we hope for a home that is better than Africa. We are told heaven is carpeted with gold, and it has all the beautiful, most precious stones. In fact, some of those stones are mentioned, and those gates and mansions. And so we naturally would want to get there when we look around us and see a lot of things that are not right. And that is why heaven makes a lot of sense to the people in the third world, maybe more than those in the first world. I visited a rich man in a first world country. I don't want to mention that country. And when I talked about heaven, he took me behind his house, and there was a lot of beauty and all that. And he told me, this is my heaven. And I got tongue-tied. I couldn't challenge that, because it was so hard to challenge somebody who has already arrived, so to speak. And so he dismissed me because he had already created a heaven according to him. And that is why it's harder to even preach the gospel to wealthy people. And Jesus expressly said, after speaking to a wealthy person, that it will be easier for a camel to go through the needle of and the eye of a needle. It's a little tiny thing than for these rich people to get to heaven, because they think they have brought down heaven. And so we have more obsession about heaven, and our music and our poetry in Africa has a lot to do with heaven. In the developed world, through history, you can hear more about heaven in the medieval times, before people really developed to the level of thinking they have something in their hands. They have some power to influence their destinies and all that. Before science really took over, there was too much talk about heaven. then and as it is in Africa right now. And it's good to think about heaven because it's our home. I believe we are here encased in this tabernacle of flesh that holds our souls. But we are very temporal here. And that is given. It is so obvious. No matter how much you try to be careful, to eat nicely, no junk food, to exercise, to think right, hear no evil, see no evil, maintain yourself with the highest standards of decorum and surround yourself with the best people in the world. No matter what we do, we are withering away. We age through our days and we go towards the grave. And whether we choose to be cremated or to be buried in a special place or to be put in a sepulchre, it's all death. It is finito. You are gone. And so we are passing through life. And it doesn't matter who you think you are and where you are or the level of your education or the expansiveness of your mind. You all go, and we are all going. And the Bible speaks about 70 or more. So we go. But the thing is, how do we go? As we arrive there, how do we arrive home? And that is the question that has been on my mind and one of the motivating factors behind what I try to do. Going home, we will go. And Jesus came and died to give us that pass so that we can overcome sin and death. And those are the two things that would prevent us from going home. The two enemies are sin and death. And his coming enables us to overcome those two hurdles, and therefore we have a path to go to heaven. We can repent, and we will rise again even if we die. So we are okay there. But how do I arrive back home? An allegory comes in about a father who gives out talents and what happens with those. So while I'm down here, I have been given a few things, and one of the things I have been given is the time. God has given me a little bit of time, and with the time he has given me a few things he has entrusted a few things in my hands, a few seeds, and I think he expects me to wield what is in my hand, so that when I arrive home, as I get home, it's not just about arrival, but how am I arriving? How am I arriving? We have a few heretic people who propagate the gospel of selfishness, and they say that no, we are not saved by works, but it's grace alone, and that is given. They're just handling the portion of sin, but we have another portion of works. What did we actually do with the time we were given? The time and the talents in our hands. And so going home, I will go. In fact, I could go tomorrow. Recently, I almost went home. I ran to a dry ground, an open place to get energy and to get the oxygen into my system, and oxygen refused to get in, and I screamed. And I got into the car and drove so fast, over 100 kph, and a lot of wind was coming in, and I wasn't getting oxygen into my body because my lungs were blocked. My alveoli had pneumonia, and because my lungs are so scarred as a result of tuberculosis, I had tuberculosis. And I have sickle cell disease, thalassemia. So all those things have compounded to really cause some challenges to my days. And I thought, I'm going. But then I pleaded to God and I said, Alex, Alex, Alex. And what I was simply telling God is that some people still depend on me, Lord. I have a few more things to do. I want to come home, yes, but how do I come? What am I having in my hands? And that philosophy is backed up by scripture. The Bible says, and their works follow them. Their works follow them. So what we do down here follows us up when we go home.